Welcome to CramerSez. CramerSez. Be part of the show at CramerSez.com. Interact on Twitter at CramerSez. Now, CramerSez.
Welcome. My name is Kramer. This is the CramerSez podcast. We are live on Twitch, Twitter, Rumble, and YouTube. Phone lines are open at 877-619-3899. Can't wait for your phone call. Let your fingers do the walking, and if you do that, then we can do some talking. Did you see what happened today? Oh, by the way, welcome to the show. Did you see what happened today? Were you watching the news? I mean, I haven't heard all of it yet, but the stuff that I watched from Tennessee was pretty was pretty interesting. To mention the fact that I keep hearing this rumor, and I haven't been able to research it yet, but I keep hearing this crazy rumor that Obama's moving back to Kenya. I'm sorry, moving to Kenya. He's not from Kenya, right? He's moving there. I haven't researched it yet, so right now it's just a rumor. It's a rumor, so I don't know if it's true or not. Today, the big news today, people will call it a distraction. It may have been. I don't think that this is one of the things that has to happen for the left to pull off what they want to do. What I would say, though, is that what they have done, what the Republicans have done today and what the Democrats have done today is they opened up a can of worms, didn't they? We said years ago that if the left did not discontinue the censorship, the use of power against political opponents, the FBI going after Trump, and when I say going after Trump, I mean embedding and spying on him. I don't care if the FBI investigates somebody. That's their role. That's their job. But when they do it for political purposes, when they do it for political reasons, which is what we've seen over the last 7 or 8 years, we've got a problem. So today what we saw the pendulum start to swing back. And oh my God, are the Democrats crying? I watched the entire interview today, or the entire trial, or whatever you want to call it. I don't know what it's called. The House hearing on the expulsion of these three people, the Tennessee Three, Jones, Pearson, and Johnson. 2 were taken out. The 2 young men, the lady that didn't make it, Johnson, she skated by 1 vote. She had somebody who liked her. So somebody on the Republican side voted for her to save her skin. Now, the first thing that they started doing is crying racism. You only took out the 2 black kids. You only took out the 2 black kids. That's what you heard outside. Those 2 men that were expelled today, they're not kids. They're men. They made a decision. Pearson said that he didn't know it was wrong to go to the well and do what he did. That was his defense today. And they tried to spin that every way possible. That, hey, he didn't know. There was no way he could have known. Why would he know that? Listen, I've never been to the Tennessee House. And even if I were a member of the House, I would have to assume that going up there and screaming and yelling and trying to get the people in the balcony area, the viewers, to get excited and make them start yelling and screaming and it's out of order, I'd have to think, yeah, there's probably something wrong with that. And I could get in trouble for that. I told my wife today, I said, I feel sorry for him. That's youth. That's youth doing what youth does. That's what we've seen time and time and time again is youth makes mistakes, but there are repercussions for what you do, right? All the different things that they said. They just made a mistake. It was just a moment. They only did it for a moment. The problem is that they don't think there was a problem with doing what they did, and they would do it again. We were told today by the Democrats to offer grace. It's not fair what's happening. Offer grace. And the same question I've been asking all day is, where's that grace been from the Democrats for the last 7 years? Where's it been? Where's it been? There's been no grace. When Trump started running, no grace. As Trump became president, no grace. As Trump exited, no grace. Not to mention the J6 detainees that are currently in prison for 2 years, no grace. No bail, no grace. Now I ask you, Democrats, is that fair in America? Using your political power against your opponents because you don't like who they are? Well, you got a slap in the face today because that's what happened in Tennessee. Was it an overreach? I believe it was. I don't agree with it, but I understand. And understanding, that's a big part of saying, you know what? This problem is not going to solve itself. Our politicians are going to continue to do what they're doing. You've already seen the example. Bragg set the precedent. Bragg in New York set the precedent. Now we can go after political opponents with our legal system. Let's do it. I'm not calling for that, folks. I know what that leads to. That leads to civil war. That's what happened in the 1860s. It was tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat, tit for tat until finally, they just attacked Fort Sumter. It was interesting to me today that Jones spent a lot of time talking about race. And he talked about white supremacy. And he talked about the crimes that the KKK had performed, other little social groups at that time had performed. And they always negate to say one thing. They never say, and those people who did that were from my party. My party is who did that. Jones didn't say that. Pearson talked about racism, that it was a lynching, a political lynching. He didn't mention where that term came from, that he belongs to the party that did that to the people he's talking about. His family, his heritage. It wasn't the GOP. It wasn't conservatives. I'm tired of this fucking bullshit that we keep hearing about, that the South turned racist because when it became conservative. It was racist. When conservatives went there, that shit stopped. I was part of that. My mom and dad moved the family to Houston, Texas, because that's where jobs were available. You could get a job in Houston. You couldn't get a job in Terre Haute, Indiana. You couldn't get one in Indianapolis, Indiana. The South had jobs, so we moved south. And guess what we took with us besides just our beds, our blankets, our pillows, our cabinets, and all the other belongings that we had in our home. Guess what else we took with us? Our northern values. The values that freed the people he's talking about. That all people are created equal. There is no such thing as equity. You can't have systemic equity. You can't have it. It does not exist. Impossible. It doesn't exist. Systemic equity. What that means is somebody's going to determine how to take a little bit of equality from one person and give it to another. Show me how you do that. Show me how you take just a little bit of equality from one person and give it to another group. You can't do it. There was a book I read when I was a kid, and it was about a society very close to what we're at today. And I cannot remember the name of this. I probably read it when I was 10 or 11 years old. The book was basically about people who didn't feel it was fair that Jimmy could run faster than Johnny, or that Johnny could jump higher than Jimmy, or that Martha was a great violinist. They didn't like that. They didn't like that there was a person in their class that was smarter than everybody else and outscored everybody else and set the scale. They didn't like that. They wanted fairness. It's not fair that I'm not as smart. It's not fair that I can't play a violin. It's not fair that I can't jump or run. It's not fair. So what was the solution? Not to tell the other people that some people just can't do those things. No, what they did is they said, we'll punish the people that can do those things. So in the little boy that could jump high, they made him wear weights around his ankles. Now he can jump higher than anybody else. Equity. The little boy that could run fast, guess what they did? Yep. Made him wear weights too. Made him slower. Everybody's equal. That's equity. That's how they do it. That's what's happening now. That's the stranglehold that this mentality has on everything in our system. And now they're importing it through corporations into every part of our life through ESG. If the government can't do it, the corporations will do it for them. If they can't get it passed by law, the corporations will come in. Oh, we can't stop people from drilling for oil? We just won't give them the funds they need to go drill for oil. That's what Al Gore said. Did you hear him a few weeks ago when he was in when he was at the WEF conference? Did you hear what he said? We'll stranglehold them. We will not allow them to have the money they need. They won't drill because we won't give them the money they need. We'll make them die on the vine. That's what he said. I'm paraphrasing. But that's what he believes. And today, what it's led to is two young men whose careers have had a major blow because society has not taught them that you can't have a tantrum. When they were told that they had a tantrum, they said, did you hear the way he talked to me? Did you hear the way he spoke? You wouldn't speak to anybody else that way. Young man, that's being treated as an adult. What you did was childish. None of the other adults in that room, of any color, did any of that shit. You did. You chose to walk into the well and do what you did. Even knowing that you were out of order, you continued to do so. And you don't think that there will be repercussions in today's environment? Come on. As Joe would say, come on, man. This was Jones today is, well, he didn't really invoke it. What he did is he asked the question. This is Justin Jones. He was asked the question, does he think that his expulsion had anything to do with race? They didn't say his actions. They said his race. They didn't say that he was out of order. They didn't say any of the other stuff. They said it's his race. Listen closely.
I saw Gloria Johnson look at you. It's a moment that we all watched with her hugging you. And she remarked about the idea that maybe it's the color of your skin, the reason why you're out and she's still in. And I see a lot of people who don't look like you shaking your hand. What was that moment like to have her reflect maybe on your race being the reason why you're no longer in that house?
I mean, Representative Johnson, Sister Gloria, has always stood with us and knows that we have been challenging systemic racism. We used to have a KKK statue in this Capitol. She stood with us when I was a community organizer. And so, I mean, you cannot deny what you heard today, where my colleagues telling me that I'm basically an uppity Negro, and that I didn't bow down, and I won't bow down, because this is too important for the next generation. And so what they're doing today is simply demonstrating to the world that we don't have democracy in Tennessee, that this system, that there is a system of systemic racism that governs Tennessee, and CramerSez, the Speaker of the House, should be ashamed of himself.
Okay.
That's what we got. Did you hear that? We don't have democracy. Because he couldn't speak when he wanted to speak, we don't have democracy. He didn't put forth a bill. He didn't offer up a solution. He said, I want to scream and yell, and you have to listen. You see, he's too accustomed to having his way on social media to where his ideology gets praised and all other ideologies get silenced. How do I know? I'm on my 84th account on TikTok. That's how I know. For saying nothing other than what he said. I don't have a problem with his message. I think that he should be able to say his message, but at a place and time. And that's what it is. If I wanted to speak to the Senate, the House in Tennessee, I would have to go through a process to be approved to do that. I don't just get to walk in, especially since I'm not a citizen of Tennessee. They don't care. But he won't take that into consideration. It's race. No democracy. Democracy played out today. They voted. Now, that's what happens when you have a mob rule. That's what happened today. Mob rule. The majority. Isn't that what democracy is? Yes, that's exactly what democracy is. This democracy that they keep screaming about and screaming about and screaming about. Well, in Tennessee, they have what they call a super majority, a super mob. Democrats can't get shit done. It's very hard to do because of democracy. Democracy is nothing more than mob rule. Jefferson said it himself. He says, democracy are two wolves and a sheep deciding what's for dinner. That's what democracy is. It doesn't get any better, folks. It's only going to get worse. We've started down this path. It's going to take somebody on the left and somebody on the right to stand the fuck up and together come together and say, listen, we got to put the fucking brakes on this shit, because if we don't, we're going to put our nation into a civil war. It's happened before. Go back and research how it happened, the process. All these little things that you see that are happening, they're not distractions, folks. It's the measures needed to take place for the next thing to happen. I gave the analogy the other night that my wife and I are moving to Florida. We're moving at some point. I don't know. We're looking for homes. And so we've gone through the process of tracking down everything, but our approval has outdated. So now we got to go back and get another financial approval. Once that happens, then a number of other things have to take place. But to get that approval, we've got to go through and get all the paperwork together. I've got to get my tax records together. We've got to look at what our current bill status is. How much cash do I have in the bank? All these things have to go into place, and I have to get all of that together just to be able to get approved. Those aren't distractions, folks. Those are the things that need to be done so I can do what I need to do next. What's happening in our country right now that we keep calling distractions, they're not distractions. They're the things that need to happen so the people who are in power can do what they want to do next. They're not distractions. They have to happen. They have to happen for the next thing to happen. They have to get people to a certain point before they can do the next thing. They don't want civil war. No, you see, what they want, what the Democrats want, and what the power elites want, what the WEF wants, is they want the same kind of transition of power that we had during Roosevelt's time in the 1930s, right after the Depression, or right after the market crash. That's what they want. They want a bloodless coup, an overtake of our financial system that doesn't take anything. Now, if you watch today what's happening in Paris, if you don't know, yesterday, the people of Paris raided a building that houses BlackRock. And why did they go after BlackRock in Paris yesterday and set the building on fire? Well, because BlackRock is the institution that manages and is in bed with Macron for their retirement, for their pensions, their Social Security. All of this has to happen, folks. And if you don't realize that, if you don't start opening your eyes and taking a look around you and stop looking at everything as a goddamn distraction and look for what it is, it's not a distraction. It's what has to take place for them to have the excuse or the reason to do what they do next. I'll give you an example. They built labs all over the planet that dealt with dangerous diseases. That didn't happen in 2019. No, that happened years before. Those weren't distractions. Those were the things that had to happen so that they could get things in place to do what they were going to do next. Hunter Biden's laptop isn't a distraction. It wasn't a distraction. The kid fucked up. That's what happened. Hunter Biden fucked up and got caught. That's what happened. He's a drug addict. He's an alcoholic. He's a crackhead. The smartest man that Joe Biden knows. That's the dude that Joe Biden put in charge of the family business. A crackhead, a drug addict, an alcoholic, a womanizer, a philanderer. If Joe did that, knowing everything about his son, how well do you think he vetted the other people that are behind the scenes right now running this show? He didn't. Joe's not doing anything. You know that, and I know that. We're in this situation because of what has taken place over the last 7 or 8 years in this country. And in particular, and I'm talking from Obama to now. What's happened has happened for 2 reasons. We want to yell and scream. We don't want to do anything. We want to yell and scream. We don't want to hold anyone accountable. We want someone else to go do our work for us. Let me explain something here. Those young people that are standing outside the Capitol in Nashville right now, do you know what they're doing? They're doing anything other than what they want to be doing. What I mean by that is they would rather be at home on their computer or on social media, doing they'd rather be in a bar, having a drink. No, what they're doing is they're out there protesting. They're making their voice heard. Do I agree with them? I do not agree with them. Jones today kept going off, and Pearson kept going off today that you people will do nothing. You will do nothing. We want red flag laws and we want safe storage laws. We want all of these laws. We want all these. Those are just another chance to take a little bit of your freedom. Red flag laws haven't saved anybody yet. Storing your gun safe hasn't saved anybody yet. They can't calculate that. You don't know the unknown. You can't put a number on the unknown. But they want them anyway. Why? Because it's a little bit of your freedom. Red flag laws here in Indiana, unconstitutional. At some point, it's going to go to the Supreme Court. The state does not have the right to strip you of your rights because your neighbor said you're fucking dangerous, where you have to go back to court and beg the court. You have to prove to the court that you're innocent. They don't have to find you guilty. You have to prove you're innocent to get your rights back. That's what they're calling for. Imagine having to get permission from the state to be able to speak. Well, that's kind of what TikTok's doing, isn't it? It's state-owned. It's Chinese-owned. That's who has the power. Phone lines are open, 877-619-3899. You want to be on or you want to leave a message, let me know. But I think it's important that we look at what happened today and all the things that were said. I wrote down so many things here today. First, John Ray Clemens, who is, I think he's the leader of the minority. He was talking about Gloria Johnson. And what he said was, all she did was walk from here to there. She walked from here to there. She did nothing wrong, folks. She walked from here to there. A lot of people did that on January 6th, too. They walked from here to there. They didn't hurt anybody. They didn't commit any crimes. They walked from here. Well, they were in the building. They were trespassing. It's a misdemeanor, but yet they're in jail for 2 years without bail. Where's the grace? Where's the fairness in that, Democrats? But it was an insurrection. It was an insurrection. Let's take a look at what it was. 7 days ago, in the Tennessee state capitol. Do these scenes look familiar to you? Are these people trying to take over the state of Tennessee? Are they trying to overtake the government? Are they trying to take control of the government, or are they just protesting very loudly? This isn't an insurrection, folks. No more than January 6th was an insurrection. These are people protesting that are upset at their government. They have the right to do this. We have the constitutional right to do this. This right here, what we're watching, are the consequences of Jones, Johnson, and Pearson's actions. What they did. What they said. They incited the mob. Isn't it odd? Isn't it odd? 2 years later, how things change and how quickly people forget. And all of a sudden, that scene, well, that's people fighting for their freedoms. That's people raising their voices. Representative Gloria Johnson, as part of her testimony today, she said, "I did what I did for the children." I've said a long time, and for a long time I've said that Democrats have been known for eons, and Saul Alinsky wrote it in his book, Rules for Radicals. It doesn't matter what it takes to win. It doesn't matter. The end result, that's all that matters. The means do not matter. Break the law, blow up buildings, start fires, riot in the streets, loot, do whatever it takes. The ends justify the means. I read it in his book. By the way, it's the same book that Hillary Clinton wrote her dissertation on. If you haven't read it, it's a short read, Rules for Radicals. Go get it. Take a look at it. It's how you fully understand what the Democrats are doing. That's why I don't fucking back down on TikTok. I know the fucking game. I know how they do it. If I back down, if I fucking stop, they fucking win. And I cannot allow them to win, because if they win, they're going to take all of our freedoms. If they had the choice tomorrow, they would strip you of your rights across the board. How many Democrats have you heard over the last few years say that the Constitution is trash? It means nothing. It's just a piece of paper. Okay. Do you really believe that? Do you really believe that it's just a piece of paper? If that's the case, then it's just a piece of paper to me too. Now, how do you want to deal with me when I decide to be lawless? When I decide that the law doesn't matter, the Constitution no longer matters, and I don't care what the consequences are. What are you going to do? It leads us to a point, people, of no return. That slippery slope that we warned people about, we're there. It's happened. Vivek Ramaswamy is running for president. I don't know if this was today or yesterday, but he was on with Dave Rubin. And this is his position on where we are right now. And I agree with him 100%. Take a listen.
It's wrong. We should not live in a country where the political party in power uses the police state to arrest its political opponents. That's the stuff of banana republics. We're skating on thin ice as a country right now, and I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican, whether you're Joe Biden running against Donald Trump, whether you're me running against Donald Trump, or whether you're Ron DeSantis running against Donald Trump. It's a moment that calls for principle rather than political calculation. That's why I spoke up about this. I guess I assume that you feel the same way, but I guess I can't be. I'm not sure about it. So I'd love to hear your opinion on the Trump situation, but that's what's on my mind today. But I think it makes me think more deeply about these questions of leadership in our country too right now.
Sure. So let's start with the easy stuff, the agreement stuff. And for sure, the only thing we discussed before we started recording this is that we're going to get into everything sort of with no rules. And there are points of disagreement that we'll gladly get into. But I can very easily, just to jump off on the Trump stuff, completely agree with everything you said right there. We are potentially entering, and maybe we've entered it already, banana republic level stuff.
He's right. We're there. We're there. We're not maybe. We're there. We've seen Adam Schiff go to the mic time and time and time again and lie to the American public, not just to Republicans. He lied to his own constituents. Hey, guys, we got Trump this time. We got it. We got all the proof. We have it in our hand. I've seen it. I've seen the hard proof that Trump dealt with the Russians. Where is it, Adam? Where's that proof? Where's it at? You don't have it because it doesn't exist. It's a lie. And we've seen this time and time and time again over the last several years where the media, our politicians, both sides of the aisle, the bureaucrats have lied to us. I think it's now time for state representatives to start going after some of these motherfuckers in Congress and elsewhere, the bureaucrats, and finding ways to go after Comey for his election interference in 2016. Go after the 51 experts that wrote that letter, the intelligence officials that came forward and said, no, this looks like Russian information. It could be something that I don't know, but that's election interference. Social media platforms silencing your voice during an election. That is election. I don't care what the fucking guidelines are. I'm an American. Your guidelines do not supersede my voice. I got a permission slip from 1776 that says I get to say whatever the fuck I want to say. That's what I have. Meanwhile, Whoopi Goldberg is begging the woke folk for a book to tell us all what we can say. Write it down. I want to go back out and do clubs, is what she's saying. I want to go back out and do my tours. I want to make some extra cash on the sides, and I can do that if I can go do my comedy. But I can't do my comedy because you people, the woke folk, you'll pick on something that I say, and you may cancel me, and I can't lose this gig. It's the easiest job in the world. Whoopi, baby, you don't need a book from the woke folk. You don't need permission from them. You already got it. They wrote that shit back in 1776. In fact, not only did they write that shit, but when they signed the Declaration of Independence, that piece of paper right there was their goddamn death warrant. The king was going to kill them because of what they had done, what they had signed. They had taken action against the king. They didn't get to protest. They didn't get to peacefully protest. They didn't get to mostly peaceful protest. No, if the king said it, that was it. It's amazing to me how these dumb motherfuckers keep thinking that the actions that are happening today, that they have no comparison to what happened in the 1770s. They have no idea. They're wanting to return to the point where people can just walk in your home. The government can just walk in your home because your neighbor said something about you and you have no repercussions. Okay, come on in, guys. That's what they want. They're Tories. They're Marxists. They're not for the American system. They want to tear it down. They don't think it's fair because you have to work. The government doesn't provide everything. They want you to go to work every day, do what you got to do, as they go off to university and get a degree in 17th century romantic poetry, at which they paid $90,000 a year for that, or charged $90,000 a year. And now they're in the real world. And that job has it doesn't give you any pay because nobody needs that. It's such a niche, and you're expecting something more? Saw a report today that some art schools are charging $90,000 a year for a 4-year program to go experiment in art. $400,000? You're going to spend $400,000 on an education? Kramer, you're rounding up. Yeah, it's going to cost $400,000. There's another $10,000 each year in just ancillary fees of bullshit. You know that. At that point, I've dealt with big money long enough. I know that if you say $90,000, I'm going to round it up to 1. I'm going to round it up to $100,000. We're not going to stick at $90,000. That's not the way that works. But they're blaming everybody else for their decisions, just like what happened today. Johnson, Jones, and Pearson all said that, well, I didn't know it was going to happen this way. I didn't know my actions were going to have this kind of repercussion. Should have thought about that before you did it. It's like if I go into a meeting, and I sit down at the table with all of the principals, all the stakeholders, and I look around the table and go, you guys are all a bunch of ugly motherfuckers. And I get up on the table and I pee on it. You think I'm going to close that deal? You think that's going to happen? It's not going to happen. I have free speech. I have it. It's mine. I can say anything I want to one time. Anything. But there may be repercussions to what I say. Now, the government doesn't have any authority to come after me because of what I've said. They're hands off. But you see, they don't do it anymore. What they do is they use outlets like TikTok, Twitter, well, Twitter not anymore, hopefully, YouTube, Instagram, Facebook. Oh, yeah. We can control the masses through that. We can keep the insurrection down. We can keep the anger down by silencing them. What did every one of these Democrats say today during this expulsion hearing? What did every one of them say? When you silence folks, eventually they have to act out. Eventually they're going to do what makes them feel good, and they're... I've been saying the same thing for 2 or 3 years. Every time I say it, though, on TikTok, I'm told that that's a threat. That telling people what's going to happen if you do this, that's a threat. That's not a threat. That's a warning. And I'm warning as well right now. The American people, folks, the American people are at the end of their rope. They're done on both sides. We're tired of playing this game. We want to get back to normal. And the only way to get back to normal is to start playing by the goddamn rules set out in 1776 that clearly outlined what your rights are, my rights are, and everybody else's rights. We're fucking equal. I don't care what your color is. I don't care what you suck. I don't care what you lick. I don't care what you put your dick on. I don't care. We're the same. Now, you go out in public and you try to make a spectacle of yourself and draw attention to yourself, and people make fun of you or they call you names, guess what? That's on you. You've drawn the attention to yourself. I have never told anybody on social media I've never brought forward my sexuality. I don't say anything about I like women or I like men. You don't know. Other than I have a wife. That might be an indication. My point is I don't wear that on my sleeve. It's not a chip on my shoulder waiting for you to knock it off. Well, it's easy for you to say, breeder. It's so easy. Whatever. I don't tell you what to do with your life. But you're demanding access to our kids. You know who you are. For those in the audience that are gay or LGBTQ+, those conservatives that see this problem, you know exactly what I'm talking about, and you know that I'm not talking to you. Do whatever the fuck you want to do with your body. I don't give a shit, as long as it doesn't mean killing somebody else on the outside or on the inside of it. It was funny as I watched these attorneys. It's funny as I watch these attorneys today try to go through and slip things in, well, here's the excuse. This one, we're gonna. All those attorneys in that chamber on the left were trying to figure out a way of getting their guys out of the noose. Because it was a political lynching, right? Not my words, theirs. It's a political lynching. Play the race card. You know, the thing that got me is that Johnson came up to the podium and then started invoking Christ. He didn't do that 7 days ago, when he was in the well of the chamber. Was out of order. He wasn't invoking Christ then. No, he was doing what was best for him. It's amazing to me how the two things that Democrats always do when they're in trouble is they invoke Christ, Christianity, or Ronald Reagan. All three happened today. Every one of them happened today. They know they're in trouble. It's a lost cause, folks. They know they're in trouble. It brings us to the point of where we are with Trump and what they're doing next with Trump. I think it's interesting that when you say it out loud and you try to get people to understand that what just happened in Tennessee today is the exact same bullshit that's been happening with Trump for the last 7 years. Prove me wrong. You can't. You can't prove me wrong because that's exactly what's been happening. They've overused their power. They've overstepped it. And I've said many times, and I don't have anything against cops. My cousin's was a former state trooper. He's a county sheriff now. Good guy. All the people that are around him, good guys. They're normal folks. They don't have the issues of anger or any of the other stuff of how dare you talk to me that way, yada, yada, yada. They're just good folk, like law enforcement. But if you've got a problem with a police officer that oversteps their boundary and you want to defund the police and you don't consider for a moment, not even a second, that the same type of personality can be in Congress or the Senate or your state house, that those people exist everywhere, if you don't consider that and say, wait a minute, if we're going to defund the police because of these small group of people who have overreached in their authority, if you don't think, hey, wait a minute, maybe we should do that with Congress. Maybe we should do that at the state house. Well, Kramer, you can't defund Congress. Yeah, you can. Stop paying your goddamn taxes. Try it for a quarter. See what happens. Oh, come after me. They're going to come after you anyway. I wish to God that you can wrap your head around that. The other thing that Gloria Johnson did today that I thought was interesting, they called the actions against these two young men racist. But they didn't mention what Gloria Johnson did. They didn't mention what she did. She was the white woman. And as soon as they came after her, what did she do? She abandoned her co-conspirators, left them high and dry. Oh, that wasn't me. They had the bullhorn. It wasn't me. They were doing that shit. It wasn't me. Well, we're here to talk about my actions, not their actions. I didn't have anything to do with those guys. Don't want her in my foxhole. And I can guarantee you that each of the Democrats that were in that chamber today, all of them, they had no issue with the actions of these three. None. How do I know? They were defending them. Oh, it's not as bad. It was a mistake. They just made a mistake. It wasn't their fault. They didn't know what they were doing. They're young. They're impetuous. When the gavel comes down and the speaker says you're out of order, you're out of order, you're out of order, that should be enough to learn, hey, listen, I'm doing the wrong thing. It wasn't the fact of what they did. It's that they wouldn't discontinue doing it. They wouldn't stop doing it. They continued after they knew that they were already in trouble. They did not care. They were playing to the crowd. Then they come back and cry. Now, the same Democrats that would defend these young men and Johnson, for what they did, are the same ones who want the J6 detainees to hang as traitors to this nation. Let me remind you of what we saw on that day. This is what we saw. Remember this. That's what we've been seeing for weeks. For 2 years, we've been seeing footage very similar to that. Well, they weren't hitting the cops over the head. Hadn't had the chance yet. They were getting kicked out before the opportunity arose. Folks, you got to get involved. Because if you don't get involved, this shit is going to pour into the streets. I think it's interesting. And I haven't seen the news yet. I've got the TV on behind me here, to the side here. I'm watching what's going on all the other channels. But Tennessee law enforcement officials are not expecting conservatives, GOP, NRA members to cause problems tonight. They're not expecting that from them. They don't have a history of doing that. We don't have a history of doing that. But January 6th, 2 years before that, for the 2 years before that, I'm not gonna justify what happened on January 6th. I think it was an atrocity. Going into the building was a major mistake for a lot of those people. I didn't go in. I was there on the steps of the Capitol. But I have the right to do that. I'm an American citizen. That building belongs to me. I have the right to redress my grievances against Congress, against my politicians. I have the right, just like those young people did outside the building or inside the building at the state capitol of Tennessee. They did not have the authority to go in and justification to go in and start beating up on cops. They don't have that authority. I don't have that authority. So anybody that does that, yeah, I think they should be prosecuted. But Kramer, it's not the same. It's the exact same thing, folks. It's the exact same thing. I'm tired of them trying to split hairs. It's the same thing. But it's not. I don't care. Fuck you. I don't care. You can't convince me. I saw what I saw. And I'm honest enough to say it out loud. That what happened on January 6th should not have happened as far as going into the building. That should have never happened. Who did it? Well, I was there, and the people that I saw going in, the people that I saw breaking the glass, they didn't look like us. What they looked like is they looked like this right here. They looked like this crowd. That's who they looked like. Young kids. They were all upset, wearing black, backpacks and masks. How many people on the right do you know that wear a mask? I know some older people that do because they're stuck. They think that it's actually going to save them. But conservatives, we're not known for wearing masks. So why would you wear a mask on January 6th if you're a conservative? The people on the outside that I stood with, I've got plenty of footage. We're putting it together now. I'm going to show it here shortly. Not tonight, but I'm going to show it here in the next couple of weeks. All the footage that I gathered on January 6th of what happened, what I saw, my vantage point. The police firing into the crowd with tear gas. People that were that were singing the national anthem. They were singing God Bless America. Nobody was on the front line. Nobody was pushing up against the cops. They were actually having conversations. And then somebody, I've got the video of it, an officer with a gold badge on his breast came down and yelled down to somebody. They turned around and fired into the crowd. To a peaceful crowd, not mostly peaceful, peaceful. 100% peaceful. Singing God Bless America. That's when they fired on the crowd. What happened on January 6th was the same. No difference than what happened no different than what happened in Tennessee. No different. The difference is that there was a group of people that decided that being in the crowd wasn't enough. They had to get in. I don't believe that would have ever happened, if the Capitol Police had not fired on the crowd first. Again, I've got footage. It's amazing. One of the things that I thought was interesting today is that that Jones said that the rules don't apply to him. He doesn't agree with the rules. The rules don't apply to him because he has a cause. And he's not going to abide by the rules because kids are getting shot. Those are two different issues, folks. The reason those kids got shot isn't because of a gun. It's because another person with your ideology, Mr. Jones, decided the rules don't apply to them. The rules didn't apply to her. That's why those children in your state are dead. The rules don't apply. I can do whatever the fuck I want to do. I'm special. I've been told that since I was a kid. I've got trophy after trophy to show it. They all say participation on them, but I've got a lot of trophies. That's why those children are dead. They didn't act any differently. These three didn't act any differently than any other mob. Any other mob that we've ever seen burn, riot, loot, they feel that they're justified in their actions. One of the Republicans on the floor today said, and I think this is really interesting, the comment that he made is that they're, I'm sorry, the phone line just rang. We're just going to go to the phone lines. You're live with CramerSez. What's your name and where are you calling from?
Jose from Brooklyn again. What's going on, man?
Great. How you doing? So how's Brooklyn tonight?
It's a little quiet. Thank God for a change. It's all right. Same crap, different day. Very important piece of information. So I pretty much, you saw what happened in Tennessee, right?
Yep.
2 out of the 3 got kicked out, huh? In my opinion, that's ballsy. I feel all 3 should have been voted out, but I don't know how that woman got saved. But here's an important piece of information. So I noticed that one of the senators was up there trying to defend the 2 that were getting voted out, and he was stating all these other cases, but he was leaving one out. So he's saying that, it's a travesty, they're getting voted out, they were doing nothing wrong. But, however, there was a case in 2020 in New Mexico where there was an official, because I noticed that he brought up all the cases but this because it wasn't convenient enough for him. You're talking about all of the cases that he talked about of protest and so on. All the protest. The one that he didn't mention was January 6th. Exactly. Yeah. Well, exactly. He's talking about Coy Griffin from New Mexico.
Right.
So what happened was that he was a county commissioner, and he went and he attended the January 6th rally.
Right.
And this is the interesting part.
Where's he at? I know where you're going. Where's he at right now? What's he doing? Is he serving?
No. He got voted out. Matter of fact, he got voted out, and the judge barred him from ever running again.
Which is illegal. Judges don't have the authority to do that.
Exactly. That's my point. So, that, like we talked about yesterday, they set the precedence that tit for tat. So, you know what? Let's hold the whole Trump indictment. We'll put that in our back pocket for when this idiot gets out of office. And let's just play the tit for tat. You got this guy out of office. Now let's get these guys out. Because, you got this guy from New Mexico out for supposed insurrection. He didn't even go inside the property. He was outside on the grounds.
Yep.
And now you have these guys that were also not only inflicting violence, but one of the people that got voted out actually got into a physical altercation with one of the other congressmen. So maybe he was inciting violence, but the other one committed violence while he was in there. Do
you think they're going? Let me jump in on you real quick. Do you think that they're going to? Do you think that they're going to? Is this going to be okay, guys? Let's back off. We saw what happened today. We don't want this to happen across the entire nation. Let's back off. Let's start letting these guys have their freedom of speech and yada. Do you think that that'll happen, or do you think they're going to double down and go even harder now?
Who, the left?
The left, yeah.
No, they're not. They can't. They're going to play kind of in my opinion, they're going to play like a cat when they play because they know that they can overpower you. But they're going to be planning by the scenes. They cannot let go. This is a now or never thing.
Yep.
They're done and they know this. I think Kirk's. I forgot Kirk's. Anyway, he was doing a graph of right now if the race were to be held. If Trump would run again right now, he would be guaranteed to win. Georgia, Arizona, and I forgot what the other state is. Those are the three states. Those are the three key states that Trump would win by. That he would win if the elections were held right now.
Okay, hey, let me jump in on you on that. Here, I want to find out something.
Sure.
Okay, so,
Sure.
Do you like Trump? I assume you do.
Yeah, well, I mean,
Would you vote for him again?
Absolutely, I would.
Okay, and why is that? Why would you vote for Trump again?
Because he's the only one that gave a shit. I mean, like you saw the difference. Like literally, like you saw the difference in your economy, your way of living. I mean, it's night and day. I mean, it was very visceral, you know.
And
I mean, look at it now.
Well, and here's the thing. When you say that, let me jump in.
Go ahead.
Well, when you say that, and I'm going to let you go here. When you say that, it cracks me up because as soon as it's not what you're saying, it's what the left says about what you just said. You're a cultist. You love him. You want him to be your dictator. If Trump started doing what Biden has already done, what would you call for immediately? I know what I'd call for.
Get him out. I mean,
Get him out.
Yeah.
I don't care who it is in there that's doing this shit. It's unconstitutional.
Exactly. And well, I know you got to go, but like I'm pretty sure you're seeing what's going on with this whole CBD, this whole was it
CBDCs
pay or something like that's going.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep.
They're trying to push that by this July. Now, here's one thing I just want to leave you for like one little thing before you go. You saw the in Wisconsin, right? The Supreme Court justice that got voted in.
Yep.
Did you hear like the big scandal? The app that they downloaded, they were paying people for their votes.
No, I haven't heard that yet.
You should look into. I'm actually going to start looking into. I was meaning to call you earlier, but I knocked out, and I woke up. I'm like, let me get this in real quick. So yeah, in Wisconsin, there was this app that people were downloading, and it was actually kind of like not instigating, but kind of like encouraging them to spread the word to go vote, and that they wanted to make a change for the more progressive. That's how they kind of like insinuated how they wanted you to vote for the more progressive candidate. They wanted to push for a progressive change. If you could I'll try to look into it. I'll see if I can.
Yeah, if you would, please.
Instagram.
Let me ask you one more question. Let me ask you one more question before you go. If you don't mind, how old are you?
I'm going to be 44 this year.
Okay, 44. So you're right on the outside or right on the cusp. You've seen in your lifetime how America has changed and how our kids, our youth have changed and their expectations. They want everything right now. They don't want to wait. Do you think that we can expect this type of actions or these type of actions from millennials as they start to take office?
Well, I mean, of course, it's nature versus nurture. The gratification is it's too embedded, and it's because of like what they're being taught. The instant gratification is being met too often. So now, like to try to get it out of them, it's going to be like pulling teeth because it's just like it's embedded inside them already. You know?
Yep, I agree. I think that they've been told so many times that they're special and that it doesn't matter what anybody else's opinions are because they're Nazis or whatever else. And you have the authority you have the justification from the authorities to punch a Nazi in the mouth. Thanks so much for calling, Brooklyn. The phone lines are open, by the way, 877-619-3899. I think we're going to see a lot more of this from millennials. I think that we're going to see, and Gen Z, I think that we're going to see this generation step up and govern and act just like they have on social media, that everybody's the enemy. And when everybody's a Nazi, you can't talk to them. You can't reason with them. You can't have a conversation because all they see you as is a Nazi. They see you as the enemy, not as a neighbor. Not as someone who can help them. That's what I think is interesting. If you've ever seen a car wreck or a house fire, nobody runs up to a car that's on fire that's just been involved in a wreck and runs up and takes a look at the bumper real quick to see what the bumper stickers are. Nobody does that. That's a Trump voter. I'm not getting him out. We don't do that. Or we haven't to this point. But this young man who just died in San Francisco, the founder of Cash App, at least one car drove past him, left him to die in the street. That's the compassion of San Francisco. Now, Why did the person do that? I can understand why they did that. They don't want to be jacked. Their fear of crime in that city is so fucking high that they refuse to help their fellow citizen. Now, you're telling me that that's the city of brotherly love? I know that's Philadelphia. I think that's right. I think it's Philadelphia's city of brotherly love. But you're telling me that all of their inclusion and all the stuff that they preach all the time, that's what it creates. People who have no compassion for their fellow man because they fear their fellow man. It's not going to get better, folks. It's only going to get worse. This is the tip of the iceberg. What we've seen so far is the tip of the iceberg. Imagine what's going to happen between now and election in 2024 if we make it. Now, I've said a number of times, and I'd love to have someone call me and counter this, but I've said many times that I believe in the American dream. I believe in the American system. Are there problems? Yes, there are problems, just like a family. Everybody's got that one uncle, drinks a little bit too much. Everybody's got one. Everybody's got that aunt that likes to talk too much at Christmas dinner, gets on the phone and tells everybody's business in the family. We've all got one. To think that our culture isn't going to be any different than our families is juvenile in its thinking. You have to be naive to think that way. One of the reasons that I do well in business is because I understand people, how they work, and how they justify what they want. The man who says, well, my wife just doesn't love me enough, so I can do whatever I want. The woman who says that, well, my husband doesn't bring home enough money, I can do whatever I want. Or, I can do whatever I want because of the color of my skin. Or you can't do what you want because of the color of your skin. The mentality that we have had, I'm a Gen Xer, and our mentality about race, this new thing with race and these kids astonishes me. The reason that they think that everybody's a Nazi and that everybody's a racist is because they've never traveled to another country in their fucking life. They've never gotten out of their neighborhood. They've never gotten out of their state or their county or their state or their country. They haven't traveled anywhere else. Let me tell you, there are places that you can go as an American, as a white American, and they will be racist against you. And I'm not talking about people of color. I'm talking other white people. Try to immigrate into Amsterdam or the Netherlands. Try to do that. You know, Bernie Sanders and the Democrats, that's all they keep crying about. We got to be more like them, those democratic socialists. They're racist is what they are. Go look at their population. If you come from North Africa, you ain't getting into the Netherlands. They may bring you in as help, but you're never going to be a citizen. Didn't know that, did you? And if you did, you got to start telling your friends. Because what Bernie is saying is he's advocating for the same kind of shit that was going on in the Jim Crow South. And tries to convince you that it's about equality and equity and social justice. That if we just do what they're doing, okay, that means a lot of people got to leave. That's what Bernie's saying. A lot of people have to leave because they're not going to work. I'm going to leave with this one right here. One of the big things that Jones and Johnson and Pearson talked about today were gun laws. They want to get new gun laws on the books. They want to make it safe for their community. I agree with them. I would like a safer community for all people. I think that everybody should be safe. It's not realistic. It's not realistic to think that we can pass laws, more laws, to make people safe. Don't we already have a law that says thou shalt not kill? Aren't there already homicide laws? You can't kill people. Isn't that already on the books? And does it matter how they do it? Archie Bunkerwood said, one of my favorite lines, his daughter comes up and says, Daddy, Daddy, each year so many people are killed by guns. And he goes, what would you rather have them do? Throw them out of a window? People who are set on harming somebody else, folks, they're gonna harm somebody else. How do I know? I've seen the 26 people killed with a machete. One guy with a machete killed 26 people. Do you remember what happened in Rwanda? For all you young people, you ought to start doing some researching, because us old fuckers, the boomers and the Gen Xers, you know, the ones you like to make fun of, we have a world of history behind us. We've seen a number of different things happen. And what I saw was that in a 2-month period, 1 million people were killed in Rwanda. 1 million people over a 2 to 3 month period in Rwanda, and they weren't shot. They were hacked to death. They were burned alive in churches and schools. That was just a few years ago. That's what I've seen in my lifetime. That's how I judge people. That's what I know is possible. That's what I know what people are capable of justifying. Imagine rounding up men and women in a village, forcing them into a building, and then setting it ablaze because they're a Houthi or they're I can't remember the other one. I had a couple drinks now. When I say drinks, I've only had one drink. I've got 2 sips. It was the Tutsis and the, what was the other one? Hutu and the Tutsis. That's what it was. And they justified it because those other people were evil. They had to go. Do you see the same thing happening in our nation now? It's no longer about who you are as a person. It's who you voted for. What Vivek Ramaswamy says is true. When the system starts using the tools of the system to go after political opponents, it's the last days of our nation, folks. You have to start letting your voices be heard. Don't scream and yell at each other. It does no good. Don't get on Facebook. Don't get on TikTok. Don't get on Twitter. Don't get on Facebook or Instagram. What you need to do right now is start calling your fucking representatives in your goddamn state. I don't care if you're in a blue state. I don't care if you're in a red state. Hold them fucking accountable for what's going on, because your legislature, they're the only ones that can save you from D.C. They're the only ones that have any authority that can save you from D.C. Because if we don't get this handled, folks, I'm not calling for it. I'm predicting it. Revolution is on the horizon. I don't want it. You don't want it. We've seen what it's done to other nations. If you want to make a difference, if you want to make change, you've got to get the attention of the people that we've put in charge. And if they refuse to listen, if they won't take your meetings at the State House, if they won't meet you in the Senate, on the Senate floor, if they will not talk to you, then we start playing by the rules of the left. We go to their homes. We make it uncomfortable for them. Isn't that what Maxine Waters said? What's good for the goose is good for the gander, right? Let's use our ability to protest. It's our God-given right. It's not a right from the Constitution. The Constitution just outlines what our God-given rights are. The Constitution doesn't give us any rights. Those rights are ours. They're spelled out so that the government knows what our rights are, so they can't break them. That's what the Constitution's for. It gives us nothing. It just spells everything out. So when the Democrats say that piece of paper is just a piece of paper, they're absolutely right. The only thing that makes the Constitution a powerful piece of paper is you standing up to defend what's written on it. If you refuse to stand up, if you refuse to fight for your freedoms, they'll take them. You can scream and yell all you want. Doesn't matter. They're going to do what they're going to do, as we've already found in the last 2 to 3 years. And it brings me to this last one. I don't know how you feel about it, but I refuse to relinquish my firearms, my God-given right. I refuse. When the same exact people who want to take my guns are saying I shouldn't have the right to speak, that we don't have that authority, that it's not a God-given right, that's an old piece of paper, and there's so much hate speech out there. They always use something to justify what they're doing. They'll always find a reason as to say, hey, listen, you see this, right? We've got to get rid of the hate. Do you think there was a lot of love outside the Tennessee Capitol today? I don't think there was. I think there's a lot of hate out there. And every time that something was said inside, in particular the death of one person that died that was a Republican, the crowd outside cheered. It doesn't get better until you get involved. It doesn't change until you get involved. Call, show up, write, be active in your community. Stop sitting back and waiting for somebody else to come save the day. Stop waiting for somebody else to fight harder for your freedoms than you're willing to fight. I do it every day. After 3 years of this, and begging and begging and begging for help, I don't beg for money. I chose a long time ago not to sell my voice. I don't sell anything on TikTok. I am not interested in that. I've asked for your time, your energy, your voice. That's what I've asked for. I've built a platform that you can go to and utilize to build a community, to grow the community in your community. I don't even look at those communities. I don't go see what you guys are doing. I don't track it down. I don't look at it. I peruse it to see what people are interested in. But not one of the people on CramerSez has ever been censored. Not one time, ever. We don't do it. I want you guys to communicate with each other. Now, I don't expect you, if you're going to start a revolution or a civil war, to start spelling that stuff out on there. But if you meet the people that you need to on there, that's what that's for. Not for civil war or revolution. I want to make that sure. Make that clear. I am not calling for any of that. But we're going to have to gather together. We're very bad at it. Conservatives are very bad at doing what liberals do very well. And what they do is they organize very well. We've got to get better at doing that. Tonight's program is brought to you by Tusk. If you haven't gotten the browser yet, go get yourself the browser at tuskbrowser.com. Tusk. It's the browser built by conservatives for conservatives. You can learn all about it at tuskbrowser.com. If you want to get in on the ground floor of what they're doing with the search engine, totally different thing. Yeah, Tusk does not have their own search engine yet. They're building it right now. But if you want to get on the ground floor, you can do that at wefunder.com/Tusk. That's wefunder.com/Tusk. Welcome back. We're going to wrap things up tonight. Tonight was a good show. I appreciate it. Everybody that called in, everybody that watched tonight. Don't forget that we do this every weekday night at 10 p.m. We're thinking about changing it to 9. We may change it to 9 to make it a little bit easier for some people. I basically did it at 10 so that people would have the chance to get their kids in bed and get the baths and all that kind of stuff taken care of. And then when they're able to relax, is sit down and get angered at what is happening in our nation. That's basically it. But let me know at syndication.com. I'm sorry, syndication at CramerSez.com. Drop me a line there. Let me know if you'd rather have this start at 9, if that's a better time for you guys. Again, I can do it whenever. If you want to do it at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, I can do it then too. Probably won't work for everybody, but I can do that. With that said, I'm out of here. Thanks so much for joining tonight. We'll be back tomorrow night, or as soon as we can. We'll see you then.
Get more at CramerSez.com. CramerSez.com.